What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of NOXTalks. My name is Connor Knutson. I'm joined here for a very exciting episode by Sam and Alex from the Kansas City Pioneers. We're calling this like the For the Midwest episode, the For the Midwest special. So, again, very excited to have you both on. Quickly, for viewers at home, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? Name, role within the Kansas City Pioneers organization, all that good stuff. Alex, I'll throw it to you first.
Yeah, so my name is Alex Laughlin. I am currently the Chief Operating Officer of the Kansas City Pioneers and one of the founders.
Awesome. Sam, what about you?
Everybody, my name is Sam Kulikov. I am the Chief Creative Officer, and I am also one of the founders.
Awesome. Well, guys, like I said, it's great to have you both on. Genuinely, sincerely, I'm very excited about this episode. So before we get into a lot of the kind of meat and bones of the conversation that I want to have today, kind of centered around being a new esports organization, being regionally associated in the Midwest, topics that I'm very excited to touch on more. Why don't you guys go ahead? It can be either one of you. Give me a little bit of kind of the background, maybe the high points of kind of the Kansas City Pioneers organization. For those viewers at home that may not know about it, like maybe when you were founded, some why Pioneers, just kind of those things, just to kind of start off.
Yeah, so I'll jump in real quick and then I'll have Sam take the reins on the Pioneers branding, the beautiful side of that. But so we were founded midway July, August 2019. Again, everything you've seen here, or if you don't even know anything about us, everything we've really accomplished is through grassroots effort. So we're super proud of that. And basically it started with Pioneers branding, and then we signed a local Madden player from Kansas City, Beast Mode Mac, one of the best Madden players in the world. So that was our first dip into esports. And then slowly over the course of several months, through a small seed round, we were able to go out and capture what all the professional teams that we have, as far as like Rocket League, Halo, the female Rocket League team, and that jazz. And then as far as the beautiful branding side, I'll go ahead and throw it to Sam.
Yeah, so we, really started out with humble beginnings, as Alex said, a grassroots organization built amongst a few members that really understood that esports had the power to make a huge impact in our community. And so when we developed our brand, we wanted to make sure that the emotion and the energy we displayed was representative of the feelings that we had, which was that we truly are trying to be pioneers in every sense of the word, not only by invigorating our Midwest, region with esports, but also coming in the industry to do things differently and to say, hey, just because someone that's been in the industry for 10 years and is making a bunch of money doesn't mean they're doing everything right, and that there can't be any improvements. So we wanted to come in at it and say, hey, how can we come in and make sure that we're building a really natural experience for people that have been in this space for years, but also provide a new way to look at this industry and a new way to develop communities, and especially a new way to impact the industry as a whole. So when we look at the Pioneers and the brand that we developed, especially creatively, we wanted to make sure that we did it with the help of people that were incredible at their job and that knew all these different nuances, whether it's we're looking at streams or branding, logos, fonts, colors, designs, scorecards, etc. And as the creative, the creative director, the chief creative, it was my responsibility to understand that I'm just one person, and I can't do everything. I'm not that great at my job. What we are great at is understanding that we all are good at our specific tasks, and so we were able to really quickly pull in a creative team of people who are amazing at their job that I've been able to help direct in the right path, of course. So I don't want to take any credit for most of that. It's mostly been my amazing creative team. I'm just here to help lead the way. So I want to give them all their props because they're the ones that have helped build this brand from the ground up. And I've just been like, hey, let's do this and let's go this direction. And so I want to make sure that it's this is a team effort. No one, it wasn't just me and Alex sitting in a room and we were like, this is exactly what it is. It's been a group effort of leadership all the way down to our pros and our content team and our creative team. This is truly an organization built from within, knowing that
Yeah.
we have a family and team mentality. So.
Yeah, I cannot stress how many of those points you just made that are very core to what we believe here at Equinox as well. So it's really cool to hear, especially when you talk about being a pioneer. That's why, I mean, that's a part of why I'm so interested in you guys is this pioneer mentality. We talked to the Oklahoma City mayor recently, and so much of what Oklahoma City's mantra right now is being the modern frontier and kind of recapturing what that pioneer mentality is like in the modern era. And what better of an industry to do that than esports, right? So it's cool. I mean, I love that. Again, so much of this is going to be looking in a mirror when we talk a little bit, right? So it's going to be really cool to keep talking. So, um, so you guys mentioned you said June, July of 2019, correct, for founding?
Correct. Yeah.
So why then? What prompted kind of the beginnings? Because we're both, I would call relatively brand new organizations. We're very brand new, October of 2020. You guys, June, July 2019. In the grand scheme of esports orgs, we're both pretty new out here. So what prompted you guys to start in summer of 2019?
Yeah, so we had basically our leadership team or the brain trust was myself, LJ, who's formerly chief gaming officer, Sam, chief creative officer, Mark Josie, the CEO. We all kind of came together with this idea of bringing esports to Kansas City at the time, and it was just like it's weird the way you worded your question because like it's such a fledgling industry, but it's also kind of been around for 10 to 15 years. But it
Yeah,
really only started to see this meteoric rise in the past 5 years, right? Especially with the boom of the content side and the live streaming side. Like I think that's really what's lifted off the popularity. And then we had last year, which was both a blessing and a curse for esports because it's just like it shut down all the LAN and the live events, but it helped the nation and the world recapture the magic that is gaming, the magic that is connecting even over the internet with your friends and family and community to play games together. And so I think back in 2019, it was just like we had this idea of like there's esports everywhere, mostly concentrated on both the coasts, the East Coast, the West Coast, and a little bit in the South, like Texas. And it's just like, why not bring it to the Midwest? Why can't we succeed and do what we want to do? And so basically from there, it was just like, okay, how do we do it? How do we build this company?
yeah,
How do we build the brand? What esports do we get into? Which I know I'm sure you're going to ask us here in a little bit,
yep,
So
yep,
I think for us, it was just like, there's no reason why there's the old adage is like, what is the first mover advantage? And it's just like for us, it's like, well, no one's really doing it, or no one's been successful doing it in the Midwest, and so it's just like, yeah, let's do this. Let's be the pioneers. Let's put Kansas City and preferably the Midwest with great organizations such as yourself. Like, let's bring the Midwest here. Like, we have
yep,
incredible talent here that doesn't get shown, and so
yep.
there's no reason why we can't compete with the best of the best.
It's really well said. Really well said. Yeah. So you kind of touched on this already, Sam. I'll kind of direct this question to you. So, you guys start in July 2019. Even Alex just spoke to it a little bit, so you may not have a ton here, but I'll just, if you do, please. A lot of it, what it sounds like is that you guys came in to almost like not a desert land, but like the Midwest is pretty barren as far as esports goes. We know that. It's catching up at least. So you guys are pioneering in this space. Is that a lot of what inspired the branding? Like, are there any other elements that brought in, like maybe talk about the color scheme? Like, what other parts of the branding kit? Talk about how that came to be for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. So when we were initially concepting the beginnings of this brand, we were leaning into our understanding as a leadership team of what's been happening in the esports industry and what that looks like, and then also using our experience previously, where Mark and I also run a marketing agency by the name of
Yep.
Social Apex, who funds and fuels a lot of the marketing movement and branded campaigns for the pioneers. So it was this nice union between like very nuanced knowledge of the esports space and then taking a lot of our knowledge and resources from Social Apex
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
building brands and saying, how do we build a really good brand and a really good community that gives back, that impacts the industry, but that also is respectful of the traditions in this space, and that recognizes, what sort of like timelines we're looking at. For example, people are moving away from mascot logos in esports, right? So we were noticing that in that as a trend, we're seeing less mascots type of logos and moving
Sure.
more towards the flat 2D element. So with that, we wanted to create a logo that really represented that energy. And so with the Pioneers, we were like, okay, we're really on the frontier. And so the
Yeah.
horse really kind of capsulated that for us, and the gold and black was really when we really looked at deciding on those colors, we wanted it to be to represent and present this emotion of like really clean, professional, minimalist, and just essentially push out this feeling of richness and vibrancy, right? And so we
Yeah.
didn't want to select colors that limited our design to, if it was hot pink and blue, it
Sure.
would limit
Sure.
the way
Sure.
we could create.
Sure.
So we were like, gold and black and white enables us to approach things and add color when we need to, and be more
Great
versatile
colors.
as a brand as we grow. And also, it just is, it's the color of gold, baby. So it's
Yeah.
more money, right? So, but
Yeah.
really, shout out to Goldfield. So the logo was actually developed by Goldfield, who's
Cool.
a designer in the space, and so he actually helped us concept that from the beginning. But after that, we really ran with it and created the text mark, the word mark, and went really heavily into the brand and spent 6 to 8 months really refining it and working with different designers as we grew to understand like what are the elements to us that we want to represent, which was realness and authenticity. So it's less about like we were worried about the colors and the fonts. It was more like, how do we build a brand that's authentic, that's real, that represents the community in which we serve? How do we do things that make people feel a certain way? And colors and fonts and all those things are just an element of that, right? And so I would say that most of what we've done has been very naturally acquired based on us saying, okay, we're trying to build a brand that represents people of all walks of life, whether they're from Kansas City, whether they're from the United States, or even globally. We want to build something that reverberates across the industry. And so to do that, we knew that we had to lean into this thought that we want to build a team of diverse people with diverse backgrounds that represent an authentic brand that truly stands for what they believe in and actually does the things that they say that they will do. And so everything that we do branding wise falls under that mantra of like authenticity, honesty, and transparency.
I love it. Love it. And I mean, honestly, you guys picked the best colors out there because I mean, gold and black. Only the best esports organizations are gold and black. I mean, at least in the Midwest, only the best Midwestern organizations are gold and black. So, great choice. But yeah, I love that. I think that the brand communicating your values is a big thing that we're trying to lean into a lot this year. Our kind of hashtag be the balance. For us, Equinox is just a quick thing. Is that balance between the light and the dark? The dark kind of representing the hours and the grind of getting better at the game. The light representing the fact that esports athletes are real people. Like all these gamers are real people, and mental and physical well-being is a core part of being a human in society and functioning and thriving. So we really want to hold those two things in tandem. But I like y'all's approach as well of like, I mean, it's a ton about honesty, like transparency, these core values that go along with being a pioneer in a new space. I think it's great to see as well. So, one way that we kind of think about things here at Equinox is almost like these two pillars of content and competition, kind of holding those two things in tandem. So we've talked about a little bit, branding is content, kind of in and of itself. So more on the competition side, you guys mentioned you got into Madden was your first title. You've gotten into Rocket League. So talk me through not only why those titles, but what it's been like in those spaces. Because I am someone who I have not run an esports organization, but a part of an esports organization that's had a Madden or a Rocket League team, right? So talk me through those elements a little bit.
Yeah, well, Madden was an easy kind of get because we already had a connect with Beast Mode Mac, our incredible Madden player. And again, when he lives in the heart of Kansas City, it was almost like a no-brainer. Like, yeah, this is going to be our first venture. And also Madden, like when you're talking to potential sponsors or investors or just fans, like people understand it's football, it's Madden, especially in the Midwest, like Kansas City Chiefs, bless their soul. Like, sorry Chiefs on Sunday. But it's
Yeah.
like people understand, they get it. Like it's synonymous with American sports, so they get that. And then when we kind of the reason when we got into Rocket League, I think what we do when we scout and look for talent and pro teams, what we want to get into is just like there's a couple things that go into this. So first was like, what is the esport like? What is the landscape of that esport? Because
Yeah.
as you
Yeah.
probably are beginning to learn and educate yourself, like there's a million different titles that you can get in esports, whether
Right.
it's
Right.
console games, whether it's PC games, which is where most of it at, whether it's mobile, like mobile gaming is on the rise now. So, but for
Yep.
us, it was just like Rocket League is this family friendly sport that's easy to understand, easy to play, hard to master, but it's such a fun, exciting esport to watch
Yeah.
because it's very fast paced. It's literally soccer with cars, right? So again, it's not
Yeah.
like picking up somebody watching like a League of Legends or a Dota. It's super
Right. Right.
simple where they can kind of understand. And secondly, we realized that Rocket League was really on the rise at the time. Like it has continued to grow every single year. It's not like a Counter Strike, which is admittedly a T1 esport, but that's been around for 20 years, whereas Rocket League's only really been around for, I think this is going to be its sixth year. And as far as like
Yeah.
competitive play, maybe the fourth year, something like that. And
Yeah.
so when you're deciding an esport, it's just like, what does it look like for family friendly? How easy is it to understand? Also, you got to think about the back end logistics, like, how many players do you have to pay and the coaches
Yep.
and all that jazz, right? Like, so all these factors kind of dive into what esport we want to get into. But ultimately, we decided on Rocket League because of the factors I mentioned. But in addition to, we kind of understood that Rocket League was on this ascent of like viewership continues to go up year over year. And then now there was at the time there were rumblings about because it was a paid game that Epic was kind of taking over Psyonix, and obviously we know how big and massive Fortnite and that
Hmm.
was. And then there was that rumor about it was going free to play, and then boom, we got into
Yeah.
esport, or we got into the esport, and then a few months later, like guess what happened? Rocket League went free to play. It broke the record of like 2 million concurrent players. So like
Yep. Yep.
there is no shortage of casual and hardcore enthusiasts to get into Rocket League. So
Absolutely.
those kind of I know that might be a little long-winded answer, but
No,
there's
it's
so many
great.
factors. There's so many factors that come into like what esports you're going to get into. And I know you mentioned on the content side, and we can for sure go into that too here in a bit. But I
Sure.
think there's so many different factors as far as diving into. Like I know we have a Halo team. I won't get into all that, but it's just like Halo Infinite's getting was supposed to be coming out, but bless
Yeah.
its soul, it
Yep.
got pushed
Yep.
back.
Yep.
But it's just like same thing, right? You look at these teams and these players as as investment opportunities, right? And where do you see the market going? It's almost like a fun game of playing the stock market. I'm just
It
going
is
to
a little
shout them
bit.
out and
It is a little
Dogecoin
bit.
right now. Um, but it's like
Yeah.
where do you see this esport growing, and how does it connect with your brand more importantly,
Right.
right? So all of
It's really good.
those teams, the industries, the players that we talk to, do they align with our brand? Do they align with our culture? How will they fit in? So I think that's really what it comes down to when it comes to our decision making.
Yeah. That's really good. And I think, Rocket League is such a great game for so many of the reasons you mentioned. It's easy to connect to. As you guys are a local organization, I'm sure like collegiate K through 12 possible engagements are on your mind. That's a game that is heavily relevant in the K through 12 and collegiate sector. So again, I think it's a wonderful game. I think it's cool because I think that what you all have done is partially what we're trying to do as well. And that is, it sounds like Madden and Rocket League are also like almost like Kansas City games, like games that Kansas City gamers are playing and are interested in and that they love is like especially that Madden player you mentioned. Like it's a great story for you guys. For us, that's kind of Smash, like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. That's why a huge part of our beginnings was we wanted to acquire a local tournament organizer that was doing Smash tournaments that were really successful. It's called Smashcade. We host those once a month digitally now, but again, that's because we're trying to, in a sense, give back to Oklahoma what it needs as far as support in gaming. And like, if we can make this thing better and more official and help those players in Oklahoma to do what they love most, like that's a huge part of what we want to do as well. And like again, that's the same for you guys. So it's great. Um, but yeah, it's cool to know about the titles though. For us, like I said, it's been Valorant for our pro team, which I think Valorant is partially the same story as Rocket League. Like they're both this kind of like elevator game that are going to go up, I think, in the next few years quite a bit. You talk about the stock market. I think it's a game whose stocks are going up just like Rocket League's is. So again, partially explaining these differences just so viewers at home can kind of see like these two organizations can be very similar, have some core differences, but both also exist in the Midwest. Like there's just, I kind of want to keep highlighting these back and forth as we go on. So reason why I'm pointing those things out. But
Yeah, no,
um,
feel free. Point those out as much as you want.
yeah. Um, so let's kind of shift and talk more about that regional side of being an esports organization. It's one thing that makes both of us unique. You guys have it particularly as a part of your branding, like Kansas City Pioneers. People could also just call you the Pioneers, though, and not, not have to think of you as Kansas City. You talk about like a global fan; they don't have to call you Kansas City Pioneers. They could just know you as the Pioneers. The same kind of goes for us. We're Equinox Esports, but we're using Oklahoma City, like in our Twitter tag, for example. It's a part of some element of our branding, but deciding how much and how little is a certainly a conversation. But for you guys, the short and skinny of that question is: was Kansas City the city because that's where you all were located, or was there like a relocation to Kansas City? It sounds like that's where you guys were, though, right?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, cool. So, in being in Kansas City, what do you guys think you guys have done to kind of be Kansas City's team, if that makes sense? Like, what is the local engagement like? Just talk me through all those elements. It could
Sam,
be
you
it
want
could
Yeah,
be either one,
absolutely.
either from the branding or
Yeah, no, for
competition.
sure.
Sorry.
Well,
Yeah,
no, you're good. I think there's a couple different ways to split that up, and so I think Alex and I can tackle
yeah,
this together. But I mean, I'd say that what you started the conversation with is exactly right, which is we are from Kansas City, and this is our home, and we want to make an impact in our community and really change the lives of people here in Kansas City. However, we want to be recognized as a global esports organization, right? So it's not necessarily about being recognized as just the Kansas City Pioneers, but more so like the Chiefs. It's this meteoric rise as a global and national brand that
yeah,
then turns around and makes impact in their city and does things. So for us, it's a matter of yes, we want to make this brand that not only supports Kansas City gamers and young people in Kansas City and even old people and different people from backgrounds in Kansas City, but
yeah,
mostly it's also about impacting people of all ages, of all groups across the world. Like that was a huge reason we built this company, was because we recognized that through esports as a vehicle, we can make some of the most progressive social change in history, right? Not only can we help elevate socioeconomic problems and raise awareness, but we can also help elevate confidence levels of young people. We can
yeah,
show that whether you're a man or a woman, or you're a young person in Asia, or you're an old person in America, you can be anybody that you want to be, as long as you surround yourself with people that care about you, that support you, support your vision, and respect what you want to become, right? And so we wanted to build this brand to show people that like we're from Kansas City. We're this small town that people think is like full of tumbleweeds and all this, like country stuff. And you're like, no, we're a progressive city, just like Oklahoma, with people who have dreams and aspirations. And it's so, comparable to people that are from different, places around the world. I mean, we have people on our team that are from, Italy, Germany, Croatia, Malaysia. We've got people all across the globe that are all facing similar instances of they want to be taken seriously and they want to become the best version of themselves. And so,
yeah,
in terms of the branding side, again, like this is what we're so passionate about, is that we want to become this global esports organization to grow our impact as an org. But, in the back end, we're doing that partly because we see esports again as this very enriched vehicle for social
yeah,
change. And
yeah,
so from the social apex side and the branded campaigns that we've been pushing out, that's where you see our energy really pushing itself, which is like, we're not about saying that we're going to do something and not do it. We really care about our city. We really care about the games we're involved in. We really do care about the people on our team. And we don't
yeah,
just talk the talk. We walk that, and we really live and breathe that every day. And so as far as the branding side, like, again, it's about being honest, transparent,
yeah, yeah,
authentic, and people see that from us because we don't ever say anything about it. We just do things, and we just do
yeah.
it the right way. And so that's kind of my side, but I know that Alex definitely has some stuff that he can add in terms of becoming that Kansas City's official team and what that represents.
It's really well said, Sam. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess you want me to go, Sam. Thanks. How do I follow that answer, right? That's a bit tough. Yeah, I think it's like you kind of mentioned with the OKC, it's like what's the delicate balance of like because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself as we're
Right.
OKC's team or we're KC's team, right? Because like
Right.
that can limit your potential and growth. So like there's pros and cons to each, and like while we do give back, like we partnered with a local t-shirt and just incredible business known as Charlie Hustle in Kansas City. We did a charity event to give back to families in Kansas City for COVID relief last year. This was
Yeah.
done like in like October, November. So it's just like we're doing the things to continue to give back. We want to partner with local Midwest and Kansas City, programs to do STEAM learning and open our STEAM branch and activate that arm of the business. But more importantly, some of the biggest regional advantages can be, if you look at it from that side, it's just like esports. When you're a fan of esports, you can be a fan of 100 Thieves and Liquid and these great brands that have been built. But at the same time, those companies are located in California or like the NV and Complexity in Texas and whatnot. It's like
Yeah.
when you're known as the Kansas City Pioneers, even though we really want to just be known as the Pioneers, right? Like that's the brand.
Yeah.
Is like I want to be a pioneer, not necessarily I want to
Yeah.
be a Casey Pioneer, because anybody, like Sam mentioned, can be a pioneer from all over the world, and that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
empower. I think, but the business aspect, you're starting to see more and more leagues and organizations attach themselves to cities, right? Like the Overwatch League, Call of Duty
Yep.
League,
Yep.
the NBA 2K League, which rose. Like there are regional advantages of pushing to, whether it's Kansas City or all of the surrounding states or cities, across the Midwest. There's obviously the regional advantage in capitalizing on those local markets essentially. But at the same time, again, like I mentioned earlier, you can't really pigeonhole yourself because you
Right.
want to be able to capture young fans or old fans all across the world that can be fans of our players or our content creators or anything like that, or just in general like what we're doing, like the goals that we're pushing, like the equality drop that Sam's wearing, like pushing for Black History Month and awareness and pushing forward for great social change for everybody. Like so it's like it's finding the delicate balance of like how do
Yep.
we pursue and push the regional balance of Kansas City and beyond, but also just the brand as a whole. So yeah, I think that's and you guys are probably doing the same thing. It's just like we're here for OKC. We're the local team that the city and the mayor can get behind. Which is funny you mentioned that because also we talked to Mayor Quentin Lucas from Kansas City not too long
There you
ago,
go.
and he
Yeah.
talked about us on the podcast. And that's great, but again, it's just like
Yeah.
what do the Chiefs see themselves on, or what does the OKC Thunder,
Right.
what
Right.
do they see themselves as? They're obviously OKC's team, but they want fans all over the world. So
Right.
I think finding that delicate balance is so crucial to the success, especially in this fledgling industry that's growing. How do you balance that?
Yep. And I might be restating the same thing, but it's walking this tightrope of you don't want to ghost Oklahoma City or Kansas City fans. You don't want to be not there for them. So you want to like pour into those people in their day to day lives where they're at, whether it's local events, charity drives, like you guys mentioned, is a great thing. Do you have like actual like do you have do we go for an event center like what how far do you go to engage in the city, but also how do you manage to keep your brand you know distinguish in such a way that you can grow nationally. And that's again, I'm rephrasing the same thing, but that's been such a core part of our decision making too, with how we design our brand, how we talk about ourselves, how we market Equinox, because it's the same thing. And each league has different franchising rules that are different. you know um,
Yeah.
Whether you can mention the name of a city or not, like there are all these nuances, different games, and how the IP wants you to function. So it's again, it's partially nice talking to you guys because you can relate to a lot of the stuff that we've talked about here at Equinox over the last year. So again, so we've already talked a little bit about. We kind of answered the next question I had, which is kind of the pros and cons of being situationally, located in branded, like in a city. Um, I kind of instead just want to talk about, the reality is that, I think all of us have the right mindset about us when we talk about being an esports organization in the Midwest, is that we need to be here, we need to pioneer, and we need to exist in this space that has otherwise been not occupied for the people who live there that play the game and for so many other reasons. But it is tough. It is tough to be in the Midwest at the end of the day. It's not California where everyone knows how to write and spell esports. Sam, you mentioned pretty sure there's no e-gaming in California, right? Like it's pretty exclusive to the Midwest. So it's tough to be here, but like, why is it important? why it is important that we as organizations exist in the Midwest.
I think that, the answer is very simple when it comes to that. And it's that to show people that if you want to do something, it doesn't matter where you're from, who you are, what you look like, how much money you have. It only matters about how much you care about it and building a team of people that support that vision, right? And so we want to show, at least from our perspective, we want to show that, like, whether it's esports or other emerging markets, and again, even like from the social apex side, this is why it was such a interesting endeavor for us in the very beginning, when Mark and I were like, we want to get our whole team at Social Apex involved with the pioneers, because we see the importance of this industry in impacting young generations and generations to come. And so I think, to answer your question, it's not necessarily about just the Midwest. It's more so about representing that you can be anything you want to be, and everyone is going to talk crap on what you're doing. They're not going to understand who you are and who you're trying to become. There's always going to be 1.5 million reasons to not do what you want to do. But if it's something that matters to you and you're passionate about it, then nothing can stand in your way. And Equinox and Kansas City Pioneers and all of our other great friends in different titles, different industries, or excuse me, different disciplines in esports, they represent that you don't have to have $200 million to be a esports org, just like you don't have to have $2 million to be a successful application or chef or anything, right? So we want to represent that, Midwest is underserved in terms of like what we get in terms of recognition for what happens in the Midwest in esports and the arts and a lot of things, right? We're the flyovers part of this country. And so it's not necessarily just about representing the Midwest. It's representing the identity of people who feel like they aren't heard and they don't get to be the people they want. Well, guess what? You can be anything you want to be. And that's the everyday, like, what gets us going, is that, like, this is what drives us. We know that whether we succeed or fail and keep going, or we blow up, become the biggest org in the world, it doesn't matter as long as we know that we're impacting the people in our community and letting them know that they can be the greatest person that they want. They can be anything.
Yeah, it's really good. Alex, anything to throw onto that? Are you good?
I think I'll let it sit there. I think Sam
Okay.
hit the nail on the head, right? Like, and I will touch on something real quick. I think so. As you probably know, it's like all of the trends in America and all of like the core, like the base of the population gets their trends from the East Coast and the West Coast and these more progressive national cities that kind of get the attention because that's where the national media is focused, right? Like, I don't want to relate always back to the Chiefs or the Kansas City sports, but like, when we were in the World Series, for instance, against the New York Mets back in 2015, only thing you heard from the media was New York, New York, New York. You don't show love to cities like Kansas City or OKC because, like Sam mentioned, this is flyover country. So like the industries and the trends start there, but that doesn't mean there's not passionate, incredible people from the Midwest who really believe in esports, whether they want to be a pro player or content creator, but they don't always have the resources or the wherewithal to like look up to like where's the 100 Thieves of the Midwest, where's the Gen G or whoever, right? And so like our org and your org is inspiring hopefully not only kids from the Midwest but people all over the world to people to get them to understand that, like, I don't have to come from a certain background or live in a certain area of the world to achieve what I want to achieve. And I think while being in the Midwest, it's a little harder to get people to understand what exactly is esports, what is the live streaming and content side or anything like that. But as long as we're pushing through and we're trying to be that North Star for these people that doesn't have an example or didn't grow up with an example of like a big, organization or a family or people who support that because it's not known here, then we're doing our job to make sure that we can inspire those people to do that. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
It's really well said, and to touch on something Sam said earlier on, it's like these esports orgs have been around. It may have been Alex, I don't know who it was, but one of you guys said that esports orgs have been around for a long time, even though it is kind of this young industry. But that doesn't mean that they've been doing things necessarily the right way. And so I think that we get a unique chance being newer organizations in the Midwest, a place that I think you can think of regions of the country however you want, but I think there's a degree to which the Midwest has this kind of elevated, not sense of values, but we just we can love people really well here and do treat people really well here at our best. And so I think we get a chance as newer organizations to embody that and to really be that that step above the rest as we build up at our core foundation here in the Midwest. So it's a really cool opportunity, and I'm glad to hear you guys are like-minded in that as well. I love it. So I know we've been going for a little bit here, so I do want to kind of slowly get us wrapped up here. So for fans at home, maybe they're Equinox fans that are just hearing about the Kansas City Pioneers for the first time, or whether they're Kansas City Pioneers fans already. What are some exciting things that we can kind of have on the horizon for you guys? What can we be looking forward to from KCP in 2021 and beyond?
Absolutely. So, in terms of the content and branded side, and I'll let Alex speak his chops on what we've been doing in the back end and on the professional team side. But for content and partnerships and things going forward in terms of our branded movement, what can be expected from us is, again, for us to continue to just totally break down the standards of what people think is possible as an organization. We want to show that even as a small team of creators and people, that you can do things that impact people in a real way. So we're going to be partnering with different local, national organizations to help raise awareness, again, for social change, to do things differently, to represent people from our city. We're launching some new initiatives here very shortly to help tackle DMCA challenges in the streaming industry by working with local artists here in Kansas City. Not only that, but also working on different opportunities, events, partnerships, sponsorships that aren't there to just slap a logo and use it as an experience to say, oh yeah, we did it. We made sure that
Right.
we donated some money and we checked the box. Like, that's not it for us. Like, this is the stuff that drives us and gets us up in the morning, is like changing the way people see it, right? Like making new team hirings and signing new teams and partnerships that actually change the way people look at things and say, oh, look at Kansas City Pioneers. They're a young, scrappy org, and yet they're doing more than some of the bigger orgs in these areas.
Yeah.
Because the reason we want to do that is to show that if you do that, you'll actually become more successful and have a longer scale for success, and to be able to build a legacy because you're building an authentic brand that is engaging your community in a real way. So in terms of looking out, there is so much that's coming. Thankfully, it's stuff that is very familiar to our fans and our communities, but there's also a lot of unfamiliar things that are going to come through the pipeline. A lot of it comes down to, again, fun things that make people to be themselves, to be real, to engage with the community, and just enjoy their life, right? We want to do this to have fun and make people feel good. And otherwise, why are we doing this? Like, we're not here to just make a buck. Like, we want to impact people, to let them know, like, life is great. Like, we can have a great life together, and to do things that no one else has done and have an amazing time while doing it.
Love it.
Yeah, and
Go
I'll
ahead,
jump in as far as the esports side, and our goal has always been, like, 2019 was the beginning. 2020 was kind of like really getting our feet wet and diving into some other esports, and getting the content team up and running. And then now, like, 2021 is all about how do we scale this through the roof, right? Like, I think that's the goal of any startup. That's the goal of any esport org. So, like, for us, we're really looking, Sam already touched on it, but it's like working with partners or investors to obviously do stuff within Kansas City, but how do we grow the Pioneers brand globally, nationally, then globally? And so, like, for us on the esports side of things, we're going to be looking to hopefully get in, another esport or two. That's the goal this year. We've already signed another team this year, like our female Rocket League team, because, again, that's a huge part of our initiative, is like, a lot of this industry is a male dominated space.
Yeah.
But people don't understand that almost half of all the gamers around the world, whether hardcore casuals, are females. They have incredible talent. They have incredible personalities for content creation. So we want to continue to make sure we serve that community. It's just like, we believe, and no matter who you are, where you come from, like, you should have an equal say. It shouldn't just be a bunch of white males who can dominate the esports space. So it's like finding incredible female talent, whether that's on our content team, whether that's our new professional Rocket League team. It's scaling more teams. We've talked about Valorant, by the way. Who knows? Hopefully, we'll see you on the battlefield at some point in 2021. But that was actually one of the sports we talked about getting into for a long time. But
I love it.
So maybe it's a Valorant team, maybe it's another some other, maybe it's okay. League of Legends and Call of Duty are way too expensive right now for an
Sure,
org
sure,
like
sure,
us, but
sure.
it's getting another couple pro teams for sure. And then to touch back on the content, COVID is obviously kind of hindering a lot of the IRL and stuff we can do, but as the vaccine continues to roll out, as hopefully warmer weather hits, we really want to continue to focus on not only the esports side of things, but really scaling the content. So it's might be a team house in the future. It's getting people to do a bunch of really amazing videos in downtown Kansas City or beyond, right?
Yeah,
So it's because I don't always want to continue to name drop other orgs, but I think esports has technically been around since almost about 2000. But like I said, you've really only seen this growth in the last 5 years. And then there's been a couple of esport orgs that started recently that's they understand that competitive gaming at its core will always be a huge point of focus. But now you're seeing this change in the industry of lifestyle, merchandise, content, whether it's the Cash App compound of 100 Thieves,
yep,
or some incredible, if you don't understand, North America is not even the largest esports region. Asia is dominant in a lot of their
yep,
stuff and some of the content that they do, and stuff like that. Hell, we just saw recently that the LATAM community, for instance, they
yeah.
just had the guy, what was his name, Greg, the guy who is the, I forgot,
Yeah,
bless
yeah.
my
The
soul.
streamer though, he broke
Yeah,
the
the
record or
Fortnite
whatever.
streamer. I forgot what he's the owner of one of the largest LATAM orgs. But yeah, he's from Spain, and he had 23 million concurrent viewers
Yeah,
on Twitch, which is insane, right? So
yeah,
it's for us, we understand that content creation and the lifestyle brand and the IRL stuff is so vital to helping, especially the youth and the Gen Z, to connect with esports is more than just competitive gaming. This is a whole entire industry. You have kids coming home from school. When I came home from school, I watched cartoons or I went outside and played. Now these kids are watching their professional pro players, or they're watching content creators, or they're watching these cool videos of all their favorite people in a house playing, whatever it is. And so
yeah.
for us, it's continuing to scale the pro teams, it's scaling the content side of things, and then again working with local and national brands to continue the Pioneers brand as a whole. So I know that was kind of a long-winded thing, but there's a lot to look forward to. We plan on tackling as many of those as we possibly can in 2021 that will allow us to.
I love it. I love to hear it, and I love to see you guys again, kind of one step ahead of us. Gives us something to strive towards as well. You guys have been doing an excellent job so far. I've really loved. I've followed you guys off and on, just personally since later in 2019, and it's been a pretty, I would call it at least a meteoric rise. I think it's been really really good what you guys have been able to do. The titles you've chosen, I again tip my hat to you. I think they're really good choices. They fit you guys. They fit the brand. I think they're going to help you guys get where you want to be. So I'm a fan, personally rooting for you guys. On our end as an organization, though, how can we help you guys in the future? I mean, this could be something we all honestly talk about offset a little bit, off air. But how can Equinox help to be an ally of a fellow Midwestern organization? We've been showing some love on Twitter. That's always good. What can we do more? Can we? Is it content collaboration? Is it show matches with our teams? What? Again, talk to me about what you guys think we can do.
Yeah, I definitely think it's there's a large piece there with content creation and collaboration, and I think that's stuff that we're always looking to do. I mean, we're a very collaborative organization, both internally and just doing stuff with people from different organizations, and then also as an org as a whole, right? We want to do stuff again, we just want to have fun and do
Yeah,
stuff with people that we like, and so content collaboration, TikToks, YouTube. I mean, there's so much that we could do.
yeah,
And so I think that, from us, it's just how can we work together on things that help bring more attention to esports as a whole, and then
yep,
also invigorate people's knowledge of what's going on in the Midwest. I think that's a great way that we can work together.
absolutely. Alex, anything else from you on that, or what do you think?
No, I think Sam's spot on, right? It's there's some show matches that you talked about. If we're in the
Yeah,
same space, there's obviously content creation, and then there's just cool collaborations as far as is it giveaways? Is it just doing cool podcasts? Is it whatever it is? Maybe once COVID's over, it's just let's do some cool stuff in person, right? And
yep,
really show that the Midwest is a force to be reckoned with, and put on for our region of the country that often gets overlooked. So For
Yeah.
sure, I think all of those things will be is very promising. Continuing to mingle the communities to let us know that, like, hey, you're a fan of KCP, but you should also be a fan of OKC, right? And so
Sure.
I
Sure.
think I know you touched on it earlier, but like Midwestern hospitality is a very real thing. We might be
Yeah.
slower behind on the trends, but we're so good at patting each other on the back and lifting each other up, which so there's no reason why we shouldn't take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Love it. So, again, thank you guys so much for coming on today, by the way. I'm going to keep putting my head to how we can continue to work better together in the future. But honestly, I'm just excited that we were able to at least have this conversation to start. And I'm sure we'll have many more conversations in the coming weeks and months moving forward. And always happy to work with you guys, both personally and as a part of Equinox as an organization. So super happy to have you guys on. Again, if you guys are still tuning in on Twitch, thank you so much for watching. Always, like, subscribe to our channels. Also, go over to the Pioneers channels. We tag them on Twitter. They've got a Twitch. They've got a YouTube. Like, they've got it all, just like we do. So subscribe to their channels. Keep up with them. Support the Midwest. Sam and Alex, to both of you, thank you so much for coming on. I think this was really enlightening, both as someone who's a part of an organization. I hope it's enlightening for fans as well out there, or people who are thinking about their own organizations that they might want to start one day. So again, really great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. And again, we'll catch you guys in a couple weeks for the next NOXTalks. And again, just stay tuned in the meantime for everything from us and the Kansas City Pioneers. And we'll see you next time.